Sullivan, and welcome to Sullivan's Travels Around the East End. Today my guest is John Tepper Marlin, economist and publisher, and we're actually going to talk about the fact that he's republishing his mother's books, and his mother is the children's writer and illustrator. Let me see if I got that right. Hilda Van Stockham, right?
Right, yes.
So, John, tell us a little bit about your mom.
Well, thank you for including me in your show, which is I've seen before, and it's an excellent show. My mom wrote 25 books for children. She also translated them for other people, and she illustrated other books. She illustrated the Modern Library editions of Little Men and Little Women and Hans Brinker, for example. So we all grew up as she was writing books. And she started by writing her books about people she knew before she was married, and then she started writing them about us. So it was really quite, so if you believe that the undocumented life is not worth living, you have to say we had a very well documented life.
So a lot of the children in her books are based on,
Right.
on the family.
Right.
All right. Well, I'm sorry I didn't include the family photo, but one doesn't know, how much time you really have to cover all of these things.
Right.
So what we're going to start off with, I think, today is looking at some of your mother's books and her illustrations. And they're not complete. They're just a few illustrations.
Right.
And then I think, John, what we'd like is for you to complete the story briefly.
Right.
Okay?
Yes.
So let's start going with the first run of illustrations. And this book is?
Peningro.
All right. And let's look at the next illustration. And this is what? That's
from Dublin. That's Rory is in Dublin, and he's visiting a flower. He's passing by some people, some women selling flowers, and there's double-decker buses. They were green in Ireland, and they were red in England. The double-decker bus is in the background. Probably this is O'Connell Street.
Okay. And the next?
This is Rory. This is of gypsies. It's a story about the tinkers in Ireland, and she's very respectful of other cultures. And that's Rory telling stories. Peningro means storyteller. And
in what?
In Roma.
Roma, okay.
Right.
Well, next. Do we have the next?
Right.
Okay, that's just a little piece. That's a...
that's a wagons. There's some wagons.
That's the tinker wagons, right?
The tinker wagons, right.
Well, since you spent time in Ireland, and since I was there, they've now called them travelers.
Travelers, right.
Travelers. They're no longer tinkers.
But they still have a bad reputation, and one of my mother's interests was trying to see the good in maligned people.
Okay.
And so she was trying to sort of while not ignoring the fact that the Roma in Ireland, as elsewhere, have a broad view of what belongs to them. She wanted to show the enormous beauty and depth of the Roma culture. It's a love story, and there's dancing in the around the campfire.
John, tell us more about this book. Now, I just want to say that when I first went to Ireland in the 60s, you couldn't walk anywhere in Dublin in the evening without some woman, some tinker,
right,
who was not speaking Roma, but with a distinctly Irish accent, coming up to you and say, "Spare a copper for the baby. Spare a copper for the baby," right? But anyway,
go ahead. With the baby in arms.
Yes,
yeah, right.
with the baby,
right.
and they made sure it wasn't looking too clean either.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so go ahead.
Well, the story is a boy who runs away from home. He was a foster child, and he didn't like his he was an older boy. His parents died, and he went. The safest place for him to go was with the gypsies, and they took him in, and so he learned all about their culture, and that is so we learn along with him about their culture, the words and their customs, and you become very sympathetic, and so then the question is, what he falls in love and with a Roma girl, and the question is how will it end? In the end, my mother backs off, and he doesn't stay with the Roma. He goes off and earns a place in the university at Trinity College Dublin, and he is doesn't become one of them. But the experience.
So he goes from being an Irish kid to a tinker to be going to an Anglo-Irish school.
An Anglo, well, yeah, whatever. I mean, okay. But my mother's brother and her husband, who met, by the way, at Trinity College Dublin.
Okay.
My mother's brother and husband both were at Trinity College Dublin in the period right before the Depression, 31, 32. Okay. And she wrote books to try to supplement the family income because, it's nothing like necessity. I mean, Karl Marx wrote for money, you know that. A lot of people wouldn't write unless they had to. And my father got out of university just at the time of the Depression, and he didn't really have a good job until he joined the FDR administration, where he spent the next 20 years. So, she was writing for money. Samuel Johnson said, "Only a fool writes for anything but money." Okay. And she wrote for money, and she was very successful from the get-go. 1934 was her first book, and the same year her first child was born, and it was called A Day on Skates, and it was beautifully illustrated, and it won a Newbery Honor Roll book. It was reviewed with great praise by everyone. New Yorker, the New York Times, Herald Tribune, they all loved this book. And she immediately, she originally published by Harper and Row, Harper, then it was Harper Brothers, and now HarperCollins. And now she was suddenly sought after by various agents, and Mae Massey found her. Mae Massey was one of the great editors of the American children's book era. I mean, she's probably the greatest of the editors, although some might dispute that. And there's a whole Mae Massey library in the Midwest. And she picked my mother up for Viking. And so the next 10 books were all by Viking. And she had,
now, some of these other books, were they published by Viking?
Yeah. I mean, what we have here in the front, you'll see, this was for R. Strauss, Paningro. This was Viking. And this one, I'm going to have to, originally Viking. This is also Viking.
All right.